Over a period of time, I had my own business, and finally I got into software. And that was pretty lucky for me, because I ended up at Charles Schwab and went from there, and eventually ended over with Franklin Funds on the peninsula. So basically I was making my living with my head, talking to other people that made a living with their head, and the world was pretty good.
I was a history major and an English minor, and I taught math and science in middle school because they needed math and science teachers, and I loved teaching math and science.
I was teaching school about 50 years of teaching school. I lived in a convent with the sisters. I'm a sister, and we did convent things together, like go to movies or get a video or go to a scripture class, do things like that.
I would get a car and drive all around, and then I suddenly realized that I can't remember exactly what road, which I've always had a really very sharp ability to remember where to travel, to move, to go A to B to C to D with perfection. And all of a sudden wasn't that way. Now, it wasn't that hard, because I would have to stop the car and look at the map, and then, okay, I'll go there, and then I'll maybe off a little bit and go back and all that. So that was the first time I sort of decided there's something isn't working right here.
At one point I was driving a little bit, and I noticed the cars, it used to be when I was driving, there was plenty of room to pull out. You just see that string of cars, you knew where you were supposed to go and drop right in. And it seemed like that was getting harder and harder for me. So based on that, I kind of pushed my doctor to say, can you find out why this is now, why do I have this condition? And I says, maybe it's because I'm stressed. And he looked at me, he says, I'm treating kids that are 22 and a half years old and can't remember why they walked into the room. How do you have stress? Right? So I pushed him some more a little bit, and so he took one of the paper tests, and then from that, that got passed up through the ranks, and I ended up with another, basically one of the specialists. And so he gave me another paper test, and wasn't quite sure what was all going on, but I thought it might help me with my driving and helping just to do a better job. And then he says, well, next time, why don't you bring your wife in? Because she might notice some things, and I'd like to talk to her and just see what's going on.
I was sick, and Pat, my best friend, and other friends said there must be something wrong. Because when I went to bed at night, I fell out of bed several times, banging my head. And we kind of laughed about it. I thought it was kind of unusual, but I was unusual anyway, so. So my doctor wanted me to go to a neurologist to see if she could discover what made me fall out of bed.
I knew something was wrong. It wasn't a big surprise. I knew something was wrong. I was having trouble remembering some things.
I was having trouble with to hold things up when I wanted to do things with them. They kept falling down.
One was that I couldn't do my work the way I like to do it, right? And so that had part of the process. Another one was probably sleepy and, needless to say, moody, at least for a while.
I knew something was wrong, so I went to Stanford and we got in, and so I went to that, and then they had me doing a lot of testing, which I did not like. They're very annoying. It was just like hard to do, because they were having me do these things that were like, I know I can't do it, so why do you keep asking me? But it was fun. It was okay, and the only thing I really could do is talk.
So anyhow, we showed up there. It was towards the end of the day, and we went through another paper test, right? And he looked at my wife and asked her a couple of questions, and he says, well, he says, you have early onset, and you can't go back to work.
First diagnosed as vascular dementia, and now it's frontal temporal dementia.
Lewy body dementia, which I didn't take too seriously at the beginning, but I began to take it very seriously as it progressed.
Once I was diagnosed and I understood what was happening, I understood that it would get worse, but I don't really worry about it or think about it. I just keep living.
You feel like you don't know what to do or where to go, or that's disturbing.
All right, this seems like a very logical conclusion given the, my folks, my mom and my grandmother, and my wife, who's a little bit more hyper, said, this is crazy, you must be wrong. There must be drugs. There's got to be something. And I remember saying, well, this is not a time for magic. This is not time for magic. This is probably the way it is, right? And magic's not going to help. But we can figure out what we need to do. And so it was an interesting discussion. We decided that, well, sooner or later we'd have to leave the room. You couldn't stay there forever. And so we've kind of got away from the magic side of things, and are just trying to be practical about what can we do.